Welcome back students to my new lecture on the topic respiration in fish. What is respiration? Respiration means breathing in and breathing out. And it is a biochemical and biophysical process. Why it's a biochemical? Because it needs oxygen and oxygen is utilized and produce carbon dioxide in the chemical process. Then proceeds internal or the cellular respiration. And what are the necessity of the oxygen? Oxygen serves for terminal electron donor. And respiration is divided into two types, external respiration and internal respiration. The external respiration refers to gas exchange between the environment and the blood via respiratory surface. The chief organs of the external respiration in adult vertebrates are external and internal gills, oropharyngeal mucosa, swim bladders, and lungs. Now, external respiration proceeds to internal respiration or cellular respiration, which refers to gas exchange between the blood and the deep body tissues. The respiratory system consists of defined area or organ for gaseous exchange, and there is a mechanism that is a control the respiratory system. There is a pump system, maintain the pressure, and respiratory control center, apneustic center and pneumotactic center that are located in the brain. Now, the respiratory organs of the animals are so constructed as to obtain necessary oxygen for the purpose of intercellular oxidations and the liberation of energy for the maintenance of lives and to get rid of carbon dioxide. The respiratory and circulatory system, although anatomically distinct, but they are functionally coupled in the process of respiration. Three terms, I think all of you have a little bit idea what are the ventilation, what are the apnea, what are the perfusion. What is ventilation? Ventilation or breathing is the active process of moving the respiratory medium. It may be air, it may be water, across the exhaled surface. Exhaled surface, it may be a gill. Exhaled surface may be different types of respiratory epithelium also. Now, when the movement of the respiratory medium is ceased, that is known as a air apnea or breath holding. Now, pumping of blood through an organ via capillaries, that is known as the perfusion. That is known as a perfusion. Now, in fish, the ventilation is unidirectional. That's when the water enters into the buccal cavity. That cavity is a buccal cavity through the mouth, and that passes across the gills that are known as gill curtain, and then exits flowing in one direction. So that chamber is a buccal cavity, and that chamber is a parabronchial cavity or it's an opercular cavity. So in fishes, water movement is unidirectional because water flows through the mouth across the gill curtain and out through the lateral gill chamber. That is important characteristic features. Ventilation is unidirectional. Now, what are the respiratory organs of the fish? The main respiratory organs in a fish are the gills. The lateral wall of the pharynx are perforated by means of a series of slit-like apertures. The first of which is called spiracle that lie between mandibular and hyoid arches. The anterior and posterior wall of each gill slit is raised in the form of vascular filamentous outgrowth that forms the gill, where exchange of dissolved oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place. Besides the gills, other structures such as skin, such as air bladder, and accessory organs are also function in respiration. But what are the reasons? But what are the reasons for the existence of the accessory respiratory organs? Several reasons has been suggested: to meet the environmental oxygen deficiency, to compensate the degenerate gills, to maintain life during aestivation, to counterbalance the internal oxygen deficiency, production of much carbon dioxide in the water by the flora, fauna, and fishes themselves as well, causing formation of the carbonic acid and aquatic toxicant. Air breathing may be obligatory in some fishes. So to overcome these adverse situations, several types of accessory respiratory organs functionable in aquatic or aerial environment that have been evolved in fishes The development of such structure is essentially adaptive in nature. Some accessory organs serve aquatic respiration, while others for aerial respiration. So many accessory respiratory organs mentioned are external gills found in living diploids larvae, skin found in anguilla, oral papilla found in lectophorus, buccal pharyngeal epithelium found in monopteros, intestine found in Lepidoscephalicis grantia, labyrinthine organ in case of Anabas, opercular chamber, periophthalmus, opercular lungs found in Clarias, air bladder found in Notopteros, pharyngeal lungs found in Channa. Now, depending on the locations of the gills are categorized in two types, external gills and the internal gills. What are the external gills? External gills are highly vascular and filamentous outgrowth of the ectoderm, covering the outer surface of the visceral arches. They are in direct contact with water, therefore the exchange of the gases takes place easily. Now, internal gills, that's when the gills are covered by soft skin fold. It may be interbranchial septum in case of the condyctis or by palm operculum in case of osteichthyes. Internal gills are commonly classified in three categories according to arrangement in relation to supportive and protective tissue. What are the type? Pouch gill, septal gill, and opercular gill. Septal gill and opercular gills found in fishes, whereas the pouch gill, that is a characteristic feature of the Agnatha. The gill filaments are arranged over the surface of discrete spherical pouch-like gill chamber. These are the gill chambers mentioned here. Each pouch may has its own external pore. In case of the lamprey and petromyzon, that is a scientific name of the lamprey, or the pouches on each side of the body may communicate with the outside by a common duct and pore in case of myxin. Now, septal gills. The septal gills in condycthys are different from the pouch gills in that the gills chamber tend to be larger to communicate more widely with the pharynx internally and to communicate with the outsides of the body through vertical gill slits. Supportive tissue join the gill buds to the surface of the body and to form plate-like gill septa. The first gill chamber and cleft of elasmobranch is reduced to a spiracle. That is a spiracle, and that is a characteristic features of the condycthys. Now, opercular gills. The opercular gills are the characteristic features of the osteichthyes. The septa are usually shorter than their filaments and may be virtually absent. The chief differences lie in the presence of operculum and opercular chamber. The operculum is a bony or cartilaginous flap that commences at the hyoids and extends towards posteriorly, that covers the gill chamber on each sides. Extending from the ventral edge of each operculum is supported by branchiostegal membrane with branchiostegal ray. That is a branchiostegal membrane. The branchiostegal membrane on both sides are united mid-ventrally beneath the gills to enclose the opercular chamber. The operculum provides a protective cover over the branchial arches and gills. In addition, they play an important role in the dual pump mechanisms that is used to ventilate the gill. So the operculum not only covers the gill, they also play an important role during dual pump mechanism. Now, other than gills, so many organs help in respirations, assist in respirations. What are the organs? Skin. In case of the anguilla, Amphipnus cuchia, and Mastocembelus pancalus, the skin is highly vascular and serves for exchange of gases. They live in oxygen deficient stagnant water and migrate one place to another through damp vegetation. During this period, the moist skin that is richly supplied with blood serves as an important organ for respiration. Buccopharyngeal epithelium also serves as a respiratory organ. In Amphipnus, Boleophthalmus, and Periophthalmus, the buccopharyngeal epithelium is supplied by a large number of capillaries, forms vascular network which work as efficient respiratory site. Muddy skipper leap water and spend most of the time skipping or walking about through dampy areas, particularly around the roots of the mangrove trees. Fresh air is gulped into the cavities and exchange of respiratory gases occurs through the epithelium. Pharyngeal diverticula. In Channa species, a suprabronchial cavity are developed in the roof of the pharynx. The suprabronchial cavity possesses some alveoli. The first gill arch appears to have greatly flattened and covered by thin vascular respiratory membrane, which becomes highly folded and studded with large number of papillae or nodules forming labyrinthine or dendritic organ. The respiratory surface extends anteriorly to the roof of the buccal cavity and the surface of the tongue. The suprabronchial chamber and the entire buccopharyngeal cavity serves for aerial respiration and is filled with air during the process. Now, oral papilla. In electric eel, the gills are degenerate. To compensate, the mucous membrane of the mouth is raised into oral papilla. They are well vascularized and they help in aerial respiration. Alimentary canal also modified for respiration. In several fish such as Misgarnus fossilis, Lepidocephalic Gantia, epithelial lining of certain parts of the alimentary canal, especially the posterior intestine, they serves for respiration. The posterior intestine, they contain large number of the blood vessels. When the air is swallowed and forced back into the alimentary canal, and that is stored for posterior intestine, and in that part gaseous exchange occurs. The gas is voided through the anus. Now the walls of the gut in these areas become thin due to reduction of the muscular layers and presence of large number of the blood vessels that helps in respiration. Now air bladder. The swim bladder of Notopteras has a wide pneumatic duct and act as a accessory respiratory organ. The network of blood capillaries covered by a single layer of epithelium that facilitates diffusion of gases between the blood and the air contained in the swim bladder. In Dipnoi, the air bladder is most highly evolved, acting as a lung, and it is vascular and contains many alveolar-like structure. Now, opercular chamber. In some species, such as Periophthalmus, the inhaled air is passed through the gill slits into the opercular chamber, where it is stored for some times. The membrane lining the opercular chamber becomes thin and highly vascular to allow exchange of respiratory gases. Now, opercular lung. In air-breathing fishes such as Anabas testudineus, Tychogastus, Heteropenistis fossilis, Clarius, sac-like diverticula develop from the dorsal surface of the opercular or bronchial chamber. These air chambers or opercular lungs lie above the gills and may contain specialized structure, arborescence organs or dendriform organs or rosette to increase the respiratory surface. Now the first one, Anabas testudineus. In this fish, the air-breathing organ consists of spacious air chamber on either side of the skull lying between the first gill arch and hyomandibular. The labyrinthine organ develops from the epibranchial segment of the first gill arch and consists of 3 concentrically arranged bony plates. The first plate is fused with epithelium lining the air chamber, while the second and third plate are much folded and highly complex, covered with vascular epithelium. It helps to increase the area for absorption of oxygen. In case of Trichogaster fasciatus, the accessory respiratory organ consists of suprabronchial chamber, labyrinthine organ, and the respiratory membrane. The suprabronchial chamber is situated just above the gills on either side, like Anabas, that communicates with the pharynx by means of inhalant aperture and with the exterior through the opercular chamber by means of an exhalant aperture. The labyrinthine organ develops from the epibranchial of the first gill arch and is simpler in structure in comparison to Anabas testudineus. It is in the form of spiral organ possessing to lip-like expansion, and is composed of loose connective tissue covered by vascular epithelium. The respiratory membrane lining the air chamber and covering the labyrinthine organ consists of vascular as well as non-vascular areas, of which the vascular area possesses a large number of the islets, and that is derived from the secondary lamellae of typical gill filament, and that contain blood capillaries, and that is the site for the gaseous exchange. Now, Heteropneustis facialis, the accessory respiratory organs consist of expanded gill plates, air sacs, and respiratory membrane, a pair of simple sac-like structure extended posteriorly from the suprabronchial chamber up to the middle of the caudal region. The air sacs are thin-walled, long tubular structure with highly vascular walls and embedded between myotoms of the body. The air sacs receive blood from the fourth afferent branchial vessel. The respiratory membrane lining the air sac is thrown into folds and ridges and is composed of vascular area known as respiratory islets that are the sites for gaseous exchange. In case of Clarius batrachus, the accessory air breathing organ consists of suprabronchial chamber, atrius, rosettes, fans, and respiratory membrane. The suprabronchial chamber lies above the gills and is divided into two cup-like compartments and is lined by a highly vascular respiratory membrane. Two beautiful rosettes or atrius on its sides are supported by second and fourth branchial arches. The primary gill lamellae on each gill arch are fused to form fan that are the gill plate that consist of vascular area, and that's also serves for gaseous exchange. So these are the different types of organs that are responsible for the respiration. Now, if we see a gill, then you see the different parts. What are the parts? Gill racher. These are the gill racher, and this is a gill arch, and these are the lamellae. These are the primary lamellae or the gill filaments, and these are the secondary lamellae. You see here, this is a gill arch, and gill arch contain efferent and afferent arch artery, and these are the gill filaments, and these are the secondary lamellae here. So first one, gill racher. The gill rachers are present in one or two rows on the inner margin of each gill arch. The gill rachers are developed in various degrees. It may be soft, maybe thin, maybe thread-like, maybe hard, maybe flat, maybe triangular, maybe teeth-like, depending upon the food and feeding habits of the fish. They form a sieve-like structure to filter out the water and protect the delicate gill filament from solid particles. Each racher is lined with epithelial layer that containing taste buds and mucus secreting cells. The taste buds helps the fish to detect the chemical nature of water. Now, gill arch. Each gill arch encloses an afferent and an efferent branchial vessels and nerves. It also covered with epithelial layer that containing a large number of mucous cells and taste bud. Each gill arch has a set of abductor muscles and adductor muscles, which are responsible for the movement of the gill filaments during respiration. The abductor muscles are present on outside of the gill arch, connecting it with the proximal ends of the gill rays. The adductor muscles, this is the adductor muscles, are present in the interbranchial septum. Now, gill filaments. Each gill arch bear two rows of gill filaments or primary gill lamellae towards the outside of the buccopharyngeal cavity. Among teleosts, the intrabranchial septum is diversified. In some fishes, the intrabranchial septum between two rows of the lamellae is short so that the lamellae are free at their distal ends. However, in Labiobata and Tenulosa elisa, the septum extends half portion of the lamellae. And some species like Katla that depends entirely on aquatic respiration that have a large number of long gill filaments. But those such as magur, singi, koi, lata, they have air breathing organs. The filaments are fewer in number and shorter in length. The shape, size, and number of primary lamellae vary in fishes with diverse habits. Now, the primary gill lamella are supported by gill rays, which are partly bony and partly cartilaginous and connected with gill arch. These lamellae are covered by an epithelium that consists of mucus secreting cells and chloride cells. Test bars are also present, which helps to detect the nature of water. What are the chloride cells? Chloride cells occurs mainly on the proximal end of the lamella as well as the filament epithelium. These cells are more abundant in marine teleost in comparison to freshwater teleost. The chloride cells are rich in smooth endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, as well as Golgi bodies. Among freshwater teleost, the chloride cells are characterized by uptake of sodium and chlorine, whereas in case of saltwater teleost, they are responsible for excretion of sodium and chlorine ions. Now, secondary lamellae. Each primary lamellae bears a large number of the secondary lamellae on both sides. These flat leaf-like structure are the main sites for the gaseous exchange. Each secondary lamellae consists of central vascular core composed of pillar cells covered by basement membrane. This is a basement membrane. It's a thick black lines, that is a basement membrane. And then outer portions, that is the epithelium. The pillar cells are the characteristics structure of the teleost gills. Pillar cells appear to perform the dual function of protection against collapse the vascular spaces and regulation of the pattern of blood flow through the secondary lamellae. Now, what are the types of gills? Based on the structure, 4 types of gills are recognized in the fishes. Holobranch, holo mean entire, branch mean gill, a single gill bar with its anterior and posterior faces of the respiratory filament, that is the holobranch. Hemi mean half. When a gill bar bears filaments only one surface. Pseudobranch, pseudo mean false. The filaments on the posterior surface of the mandibular arch that is facing to first gill chamber are often modified to serve a non-respiratory function. Pseudobranch is present in Katla but absent in some fishes like Walagoatu, Notopteras, Channa. The pseudobranch may also be useful in the filling of gas bladder and in the regulation of intraocular pressure. And the last one, Lophobranch. It is a peculiar type of gill that is observed in seahorses and pipe fishes, where the gill filaments become reduced to form a rosette-like shafts. The tufts are small and attached to greatly reduced gill arches. Now, what are the blood vascular system of a teleost gills? Generally, one afferent and one efferent branchial vessels is present in each arch of teleost, but few exceptions such as Labiorohita and Anabastostudinius. There are 2 efferent branchial vessels in each arch. Each afferent branchial vessels brings oxygen deficient blood into the gill. It runs through the entire gill of the gill arch and gives a number of primary afferent branches to primary gill lamella. Now, each primary afferent vessels divided into secondary vessels, one for each secondary lamella. Now, these run across the gill rays, dividing again 2 to 4 tertiary branches interconnected with each other and forming the vascular central core of the secondary lamellae. Exchange of gases takes place while the blood is circulating through these channels. Now, the oxygenated blood that is collected by efferent lamellar arterioles, which carry the blood to primary efferent vessels. Now, water is brought in close contact with secondary lamellae, through which gaseous exchange takes place. Functionally, the gills are very efficient and utilize about 50 to 80% of the oxygen presence. Now, the orientation of the afferent and efferent branchial vessels are arranged in such a way that the blood and the respiratory water, that the blood and the respiratory water flow in opposite direction. That is known as countercurrent system, in which water containing oxygen from oral to alveolar sides of the gills, whereas the blood in the lamella that flows from alveolar to oral side of the gill, thus providing maximum exchange of the respiratory gases. And here you see the orientation of afferent and efferent bronchial vessels, and that is arranged in such a way that the blood and the respiratory water that's flow opposite direction, and that is called the countercurrent system, and that is unique for fish. Now, what are the mechanism of the respiration? In water-breathing fishes, the most common pump is a dual pump. Why the name suggests dual pump? As the name suggests, it consists of two pumps in tandem. It's a buccal and peribranchial or opercular pump. These pumps works in a synchronous pattern to drive water in a continuous unidirectional flow. Now, dual pump mechanism in the bony fishes, that is a two phases, the suction phase and the another phase is pressure phase. Pressure phase is also known as force phase. That is the first stroke known as the suction phase, and the second stroke that is known as force phase. The first one, for respiration, the mouth is open. The mouth is open. So the buccal cavity is enlarged. The buccal cavity is enlarged by lateral expansion of its wall. Now, an increase in buccal cavity creates a negative water pressure in it. So outside water is inhaled in following the pressure gradient. Here the pressure gradient is negative in comparison to surrounding water. The surrounding water pressure is high. So on the basis of pressure gradient, water sweeps into the buccal cavity. Now, when the buccal cavity is filled with water, the mouth is closed. The mouth is closed, and the operculum is abducted. Operculum is abducted anteriorly to increase the opercular cavity. At this time, the opercular opening is kept closed. How closed? Due to the pressure of external water. Due to the pressure of external water. Now the pressure increases in the buccal cavity, but oral valves preventing the backflow. So the low pressure that is created in the opercular cavity. So on the basis of pressure gradient, the water moves from buccal cavity to opercular cavity through the gills, over the gills. Now, force phase, the buccal and opercular cavity that are reduced so as to exercise pressures on the water inside it. Now the oral valves prevent the water from going out of the mouth. The pressure in the buccal cavity is greater in comparison to opercular cavity. That maintains a vigorous respiratory flow across the gill. Now the opercula, after reaching the maximum abduction, are quickly brought towards the body and the water leaves through it. Now the cycle ends with the buccal pump switching back to suction pump action. The next cycle soon follows. So the timing of the suction and force phase together with pressure differentials between them results in a continuous direction flow of new water across the gill. Now, dual pump mechanism in elasmobranch. Insert ventilation is based on dual pump mechanism that creates alternating negative and positive pressure to draw the water in and then drive it across the gill curtain. Here the pressure is high and here the pressure is low. So on the basis of pressure gradient, water moves into the cavity from the surrounding ecosystems. Now, here you see that is a buccal cavity. The pressure is low, so the water moves in the buccal cavity. Now, if you compare the parabronchial cavity, the parabronchial, there is no any opercular chamber. The chamber is a parabronchial chamber. So pressures recorded on either side of the gill curtain within the buccal and parabanchial compartments reveal the efficiency of the dual pump. Now the pressure rises and falls in each cavity. The pressure rises and falls in each cavity. The pressure is always relatively lower. In which cavity? Parabanchial cavity. That located lateral to the gills than in the buccal cavity. The buccal cavity is medial to the gills. So in addition to brings new pulses of the water into the mouth, the dual pump mechanism of the Shark also maintains a nearly constant pressure difference between the buccal and parabanchial compartment. As a result, the pressure oscillation of the dual pump are converted into a smoother, almost continuous unidirectional irrigations of the gills. Blood coursing within the capillaries of the secondary lamellae set up a counter current pattern promoting efficient gas exchange. That is a water entering in the mouth, then the flap valve closed. When the flap valve is closed, then the water moves and the gill ventilation in the Sharks, and ultimately the flap valves are open. So the water moves from the parabanchial chamber to the outsides. And it is interesting, in some active fast swimming fishes such as tuna and some sharks, they swim fast, and when they swim, their mouth opens and consequently force water over the gills, and that is called the ram ventilation. And that suggests that the increased energy requirement of swimming are less than the requirement of mouth and opercular pumping in order to ensure the delivery of water and oxygen to the gills. Now, what is the function of the spiracle? The spiracle play a role in chemical sampling or passing stream of the water. In sharks, it does not play a role related to the respiration. These are the books. With the help of these books, I have prepared my lecture. An introduction to fishes, S.S. Khanna. Fish biology, C.B.L. Srivastava. Fish and fisheries, Pandey and Shukla. Analysis of vertebrate structure, Milton Hildebrand. Vertebrates, comparative anatomy, functional evolution, Ken P. Cardan. Thank you, everybody.